When people ask why my marriage ended, I tell them Peter found someone else. That's easier than admitting I spent 7 years treating my husband like a consolation prize, only realizing he was the grand prize after he walked out and never looked back. My name is Catherine, and I lost the best thing that ever happened to me because I couldn't stop believing I deserved better. The truth is uglier than any lie I could tell. I married Peter thinking I was doing him a favor. Me, Catherine Monroe, former pageant queen, Duke graduate, daughter of a federal judge. Him, Peter Walsh, community college dropout, HVAC technician, son of a single mother who cleaned houses. I thought I was slumming it. Turns out he was the one who married beneath him. He just figured it out first. We met at a bar in Charlotte when I was 28 and fresh off another failed relationship with another inappropriate man. My pattern was predictable. Date someone dangerous, get my heart broken, swear off bad boys, then repeat. That night, I was in the swear off bad boys phase, nursing a martini and my latest wounds from Alejandro, the married artist who'd promised to leave his wife but never did. Peter was at the bar with his work crew, still in his uniform, celebrating someone's birthday. He wasn't my type at all. Too safe, too ordinary, too blue collar. But when he offered to buy me a drink, I thought, why not? Maybe a nice guy would be good for my ego. "I'm Peter," he said, with this earnest smile that should have been my first clue about who he really was. "Catherine," I replied, not bothering with the smile. "And I drank top shelf." "Top shelf it is," he said without hesitation, signaling the bartender. I spent that first conversation testing him, seeing how much attitude he'd take before walking away like they all did eventually. I mentioned Duke, dropped my father's title, talked about my ex who drove a Porsche. Peter just listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested in my answers. He didn't try to impress me or compete. He was just present. "Can I take you to dinner sometime?" he asked when the night was ending. "I don't usually date guys like you," I said, cruel in that casual way I'd perfected. "Guys like me?" "You know, blue collar, no offense." He should have walked away. Any man with self-respect would have. Instead, he smiled and said, "None taken." But dinner's just food and conversation. What's the harm? The harm, as it turned out, was that Peter Walsh was nothing like I expected. Our first date was at a steakhouse I chose specifically because I knew it was expensive. I wanted to see him squirm at the prices, maybe make an excuse to go somewhere cheaper. Instead, he made a reservation, showed up in his only suit, and treated me like I was worth any price on the menu. He was different from the men I usually dated. He called when he said he would. He remembered details from our conversations. He had opinions but didn't need to dominate every discussion. He made me laugh with self-deprecating humor that wasn't fishing for compliments. He was comfortable with who he was in a way I'd never seen in the insecure artists and angry intellectuals I usually chose. "Why are you single?" I asked on our fourth date, suspicious of his normalcy. "I was engaged a few years back," he said simply. "She decided she wanted different things. Took me a while to get over it, but I'm good now." "Different things like what?" "Someone with a college degree, mainly." Her parents never approved of me. Eventually, she started seeing their point. "That must have hurt," I said, though internally I understood his ex's position perfectly. "It did," he admitted, "but it also taught me something important. I can't be anything other than who I am. The right person will see that as enough." I should have recognized the warning in those words. Should have realized I was already calculating all the ways he wasn't enough. But I was too busy enjoying being pursued by someone stable for once. My friends were horrified when I kept seeing him. "An HVAC technician?" My best friend Claire wrinkled her nose at brunch in our usual spot in Myers Park. "Catherine, what are you doing?" "He's nice," I defended weakly. "So is my dentist. Doesn't mean I'd date him." "He treats me well." "So would a golden retriever." "Come on, Kat, you can do so much better." Better. That word followed our relationship like a shadow. I could do better. I deserved better. I was settling for better than nothing instead of waiting for better than him. But Peter made it easy to keep seeing him. He integrated into my life without demanding I integrate into his. He came to gallery openings and charity galas, rented tuxedos without complaint, made conversation with people who barely acknowledged him. He never pointed out their condescension or my failure to defend him. "Your friends are interesting," he said after a particularly brutal dinner party, where Claire's husband had spent 20 minutes explaining why trade schools were giving up on real education. "They're snobs," I admitted. "They care about you," he said generously. "They want what's best for you." "And you think you're what's best for me?" He looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me in that way he had. "I think I could be, if you'd let me." "But that's your call, Catherine." 6 months in, I was faced with a choice. Alejandro had resurfaced, finally divorced, finally available. He sent flowers to my office with a note. "I'm free now. Let's talk." This was what I'd wanted for 2 years, the passionate, complicated artist who made me feel alive even as he made me miserable. The man my friends would approve of, with his gallery connections and his trust fund, and his beautiful damage. I met him for coffee, wore the dress he'd always loved, prepared to fall back into our toxic pattern. But sitting across from him, listening to him talk about his art and his pain and his needs, all I could think about was Peter. Peter who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. Peter who fixed things instead of breaking them. Peter who showed up consistently and without drama. "I have a boyfriend," I told Alejandro. "Since when has that stopped us?" He smirked. "Since Peter," I realized. Since someone treated me like I was worth more than secret meetings and broken promises. I went to Peter's apartment that night, the small but clean space he'd never apologized for. He was cooking dinner, music playing, completely at ease in his world. When he saw me, his face lit up in that way that should have told me everything. "I love you," I said, surprising both of us. He put down his spatula, came over, took my face in his hands. "I love you too, Catherine. Have for a while now." "Even though I'm kind of a snob?" "Because you're kind of a snob," he said, kissing me. "Among other things." We moved in together a year later. I insisted on my place, of course. Couldn't have my address be his working-class neighborhood. Peter packed his things without complaint, fit his life into my space without taking up too much room. He was so grateful, so accommodating, that I convinced myself I was doing him a favor. The proposal came 2 years in. Not in Paris or at a 5-star restaurant like I'd always imagined, but at his mother's house during Sunday dinner. His whole family was there. The extended clan of teachers and nurses and contractors who'd welcomed me despite knowing exactly what I thought of them. Peter got on one knee right there in the living room, his mother's hand over her heart, his sister recording on her phone. "Catherine Monroe," he said, "you've made me happier than I ever thought possible. Will you marry me?" The ring was modest, a solitaire he'd probably saved months for. Nice, but not impressive. I could see my future laid out. A small wedding his family could afford to attend, a honeymoon to somewhere domestic, a life of making do and making less than I'd always planned. "Yes," I said anyway, because what else was I going to do? Keep dating men who hurt me? At least Peter would never leave. The minute we were alone, I started managing his expectations. "I was thinking a small wedding," I lied. "Maybe just family." "Whatever you want," he said, so happy he was practically glowing. "I just want to marry you. And the ring is lovely, but maybe we could upgrade it later? When you're making more money?" His face fell slightly, but he nodded. "Of course. I know it's not much." "It's perfect for now," I said, the qualifier hanging in the air like a slap. Wedding planning revealed every crack in our foundation. I wanted things Peter couldn't afford and didn't see the point of. He wanted to include people I found embarrassing. We compromised, which meant I got my way on everything that showed and he got his way on things that didn't matter. My dress cost more than he made in 3 months. The venue was a country club his family whispered through. The guest list was 70% my side, all of whom treated his family like the help. I spent the whole reception apologizing for him, explaining away his job, his education, his background, like they were stains I was still trying to wash out. "Your husband seems nice," Claire said at the reception, damning with faint praise. "He is nice," I agreed, already bored with nice, already wondering what Alejandro was doing, whether I'd made a terrible mistake. Marriage didn't cure my dissatisfaction. If anything, it magnified it. Every day I cataloged the ways Peter fell short. He left his work boots by the door. He drank beer from cans. He watched sports instead of documentaries. He was content with so little when I wanted so much more. "We should travel," I'd say, showing him photos of Santorini, Bali, Tokyo. "That sounds amazing," he'd agree. "Let me see what I can save up." "Or we could just go," I'd push. "Put it on credit cards." "Catherine, we can't afford that kind of debt, but I promise we'll travel. Just maybe start with something closer for now." Practical Peter. Responsible Peter. Boring Peter who didn't understand that life was for living, not for saving up for someday. I started going out more with my single friends, leaving him home with his baseball games and his contentment. Started flirting with men at bars just to feel desired by someone who didn't know my whole routine. Started resenting the ring on my finger that felt less like a symbol of love and more like a badge of settling. "Where were you?" Peter would ask when I came home late, smelling like wine and other men's cologne. "Out with the girls," I'd say dismissively. "You wouldn't have enjoyed it." "Try me," he'd offer. "I want to be part of your life." "You are," I'd lie, already planning the next escape. 5 years in, I was miserable. Not because Peter had changed, but because he hadn't. He was still the same kind, steady, devoted man who thought I was the best thing that ever happened to him. He still lit up when I walked in a room. Still told me I was beautiful even when I'd gained weight. Still defended me to his family when they'd started to notice how I treated him. "She doesn't appreciate you," I overheard his sister tell him at a barbecue. "You don't know her like I do," Peter responded. "Catherine's she's got high standards." There's nothing wrong with that. High standards? "Pete, she acts like she's doing you a favor by being married to you." "Maybe she is," he said quietly, and the defeat in his voice should have woken me up. Instead, I doubled down on my disappointment, started picking fights about money, about ambition, about all the ways he was failing to live up to potential I'd projected onto him. "Don't you want more?" I asked one night after he'd turned down overtime to spend the weekend with me. "More what?" "More everything. A better job, a better house, a better life." "I have a good job, a nice house, and a life I love," he said carefully. "I have you. That's all I need." "Well, maybe I need more," I snapped. "Maybe I need a husband who wants to be something more than an HVAC technician." "I am more than an HVAC technician," he said quietly. "I'm a good man who loves you." I thought that used to be enough. "Used to be," I repeated. Exactly. The end came suddenly, though I should have seen it building. Peter had been quieter lately, working more, coming home tired. I assumed he was finally taking my criticism to heart, trying to earn more, be more. I was so wrapped up in my own dissatisfaction that I didn't notice he'd stopped saying he loved me, stopped reaching for me at night, stopped lighting up when I entered a room. One Thursday evening, I came home from book club, where I'd spent 2 hours complaining about my marriage to women who pretended to sympathize, to find Peter sitting at the kitchen table with a manila envelope. "We need to talk," he said. "If this is about last weekend, I told you I was sorry for what I said to your mother." "It's not about that," he interrupted, which he never did. "Catherine, when was the last time you were happy?" "What kind of question is that?" "A real one. When was the last time you looked at me and felt happy to be my wife?" I started to lie, then stopped. Because I couldn't remember. Couldn't pinpoint a moment in recent memory where I'd felt anything but trapped by my own choices. I don't know, I admitted. I do, he said. It was the night you told me you loved me. In my old apartment, when you chose me over him. That was the last time you looked at me like I was enough. Peter dash dash. I've spent 5 years trying to become someone you could be proud of. Taking classes online you don't know about. Applying for jobs I don't even want. Pretending not to notice when you're embarrassed by me. Hoping that one day I'd wake up and magically be the man you actually wanted to marry, instead of the one you settled for. I never said, "You say it every day," he said softly. In how you introduce me at parties. In how you apologize for our house, my truck, my family. In how you look at other women's husbands like you got the consolation prize. He slid the envelope across the table. Divorce papers. Peter, wait. Let's talk about this. We can try counseling. I've been going to counseling, he said. By myself, for a year, trying to figure out why I wasn't enough, what I could change, how I could make you happy. You know what my therapist finally asked me? She asked why I was killing myself trying to be enough for someone who made it clear I never would be. That's not true. Name one thing about me you're proud of, he challenged. One thing you brag about to your friends. One thing about our life that you wouldn't change. I opened my mouth, closed it. Because everything I could think of, his kindness, his loyalty, his love for me, were things I'd treated as givens rather than gifts. I love you, I tried. No, he said sadly. You love the idea that someone like me loves you. There's a difference. He stood up, grabbed the duffel bag I hadn't noticed by the door. Where are you going? I'm staying with my sister for now. The papers are pretty straightforward. You keep the house, I'll keep my truck and tools. No alimony either way. I just want this to be clean. Peter, please. Don't do this. I can change. That's the thing, Catherine. I don't want you to change. I want to be with someone who doesn't have to. He walked toward the door, and panic clawed at my chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to love me forever, unconditionally, gratefully. He wasn't supposed to leave. He wasn't supposed to realize he could do better. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do, I said desperately. He turned back, and for the first time in 7 years, I saw pity in his eyes. I know, that's why I stayed so long. But Catherine, I'd rather be alone than be with someone who's ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed. You're ashamed of everything about me, except how much I loved you. And now I don't even have that to offer anymore. He left, just walked out the door and drove away in the truck I'd always hated, leaving me in the house I'd insisted on, with the life I'd thought I wanted. I called him hundreds of times that first week, texted essays about how sorry I was, how I'd change, how I finally saw what I had. He never responded. His sister did once, to tell me to stop harassing him or they'd get a restraining order. The divorce was final 3 months later. Peter never asked for anything, never made it difficult, never gave me the drama I could have used to paint him as the villain. He just disappeared from my life as efficiently as he'd fixed everything else that was broken. I thought I'd be relieved, thought I'd feel free to find the life I really wanted. Instead, I felt empty. The house was too quiet without his humming, the bed too cold without his warmth, the future too uncertain without his steady presence. My friends rallied around me, told me I was better off, that I could finally find someone worthy of me. I went on dates with the kind of men I'd always thought I deserved, lawyers and doctors and executives who looked perfect on paper, but they all fell short of Peter in ways that mattered. They talked about themselves instead of asking about me. They canceled plans when better offers came up. They treated me exactly how I'd treated Peter, like an option instead of a priority. He's dating someone, Claire told me 6 months after the divorce, scrolling through Facebook. Some teacher at his nephew's school. I grabbed her phone, stared at the photo. Peter at a backyard barbecue, his arm around a pretty woman who was laughing at something he'd said. He looked happy, lighter, like losing me had been a weight off his shoulders. She's cute, I guess, Claire said. In a kindergarten teacher way. She's perfect, I whispered, seeing what I'd been too stupid to see before. She was looking at Peter like he was everything, like he was the prize, not the compromise. Like she couldn't believe her luck. The way he'd looked at me once upon a time. I stalked her social media like a masochist, watched their relationship unfold in pictures and posts, weekend trips to cabins in the mountains, lazy Sundays at his mother's house where she fit in seamlessly, pictures of him fixing things at her apartment, her looking at him like he was a superhero instead of just a guy with tools. They got engaged a year later. His mother posted the video, Peter proposing at the same lake where his parents had gotten engaged. His whole family there, everyone crying with joy. The ring was bigger than mine had been. He'd probably saved for months, wanted to give her everything. "I can't believe you're saying yes to me," I heard him say in the video. "I can't believe you're asking," she laughed through tears. "You're so out of my league." Out of her league. Peter. The man I'd thought was beneath me. Their wedding was small, intimate, perfect. His sister posted pictures. The bride in a simple dress that made her glow. Peter looking at her like she was the sun and stars combined. Their first dance was to some country song I didn't recognize, both of them laughing as he dipped her dramatically. "Thank you," she'd written in her vows. His sister's video caption said, "For showing me what it means to be loved completely." Completely. The way Peter had loved me, until I'd worn that love down to nothing with my disappointment and disdain. It's been 3 years now. Peter and his wife have a baby, a little girl with his eyes and her smile. They bought a house in that working-class neighborhood I'd refused to live in. His business is thriving. He started his own HVAC company, has 5 employees, just got a contract with the city. Everything I'd pushed him to want, he achieved without me pushing. I'm still single, still in the house that feels too big, with the country club membership that feels hollow, surrounded by friends who validate my worst instincts. Still going on first dates that never turn into second ones because I compare everyone to Peter and find them wanting. "You could have had it all," my mother said recently after a few too many wines. "Peter was such a good man." "I know," I said. "That was the problem. I didn't think good was enough." "And now?" "Now I know good was everything." I see him sometimes, around Charlotte, at the hardware store, at the grocery store, living his life without me. He's always polite, distant, treats me like someone he used to know, which I suppose I am. His wife is always with him, holding their daughter, looking at him like he painted the stars. The family I threw away because I thought I deserved better. Last week, I ran into his mother at the farmer's market. She was buying flowers, probably for Sunday dinner, the ones I used to attend and feel superior at. "Hello, Catherine," she said, not unkindly, but not warmly either. "Mrs. Walsh, how are you?" "Blessed," she said simply. "My son is happy." That's all a mother can ask for. "I'm glad," I said, meaning it. "He deserves to be happy." She studied me for a moment. "He was happy before, with you. He would have spent his whole life trying to make you happy too, if you'd let him." "I know," I whispered. I was too stupid to see it. "Not stupid," she said, "just young and confused about what matters. Peter says you're doing well. I hope that's true." Peter says. Present tense. He still asked about me, still cared enough to hope I was okay even after everything I'd put him through. "I'm trying," I said honestly. She nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "Catherine, can I tell you something, mother to woman?" I nodded. "Peter didn't save you." "You were already saved. You had a good man who loved you, a nice life, everything that actually matters. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy looking for something shinier. The tragedy isn't that you lost him, it's that you never saw what you had." She left me standing there among the flowers and vegetables, surrounded by simple abundance I'd been too sophisticated to appreciate. I thought I was settling when I married Peter. Thought I was doing him a favor by choosing him, giving him access to a world he couldn't reach on his own. I thought he was lucky to have me, that I was the prize in our relationship. Turns out I was being rescued. From men who would never commit. From a life of always chasing something better. From friends who encouraged my worst instincts. From the person I would have become if Peter hadn't loved me despite myself. He rescued me from all of that, and I was too arrogant to see it. Too convinced that love meant drama and passion, and always wanting more. Too stupid to recognize that love was someone coming home every night, fixing what was broken, choosing me even when I made it hard. Peter gave me 7 years of unconditional love. 7 years of being someone's priority. 7 years of quiet, steady rescue from my own worst impulses. And I spent every one of those years telling him he wasn't enough, showing him he was replaceable, proving I didn't deserve what he was offering. Now I'm the one who's not enough. Not enough to keep a good man's love. Not enough to recognize rescue when it was standing right in front of me. Not enough to build a life with someone who only wanted to share his with me. I thought I was settling. Turns out I was being rescued. And when my rescuer finally got tired of saving someone who didn't want to be saved, he left me to drown in the shallow life I'd insisted I wanted. He never looked back. Why would he? There was nothing back here worth seeing. Just a woman who had everything and thought it was nothing, who had love and called it settling, who had a rescuer and treated him like he was the one who needed saving. Some mistakes you can't take back. Some lessons come too late. Some rescues only happen once. And some people, like me, don't realize they're drowning until their lifeline walks away and leaves them with exactly what they thought they wanted. A life too good for someone like Peter Walsh, and far too empty for the woman who finally understands she was the one being rescued all along.